Time for another board game review, and this time we have 5 games. Epic Spell Wars at the Battle Wizards, Duel at Mount Skullsfire, Rumble at Castle Tentacle, Melee at Murdershrew Marsh, Panic at the Pleasure Palace, and Hijinx at Hell High. These were all sent to me by Cryptozoic Entertainment and are designed by Matt Hyra and Corey Jones. Now, these are all standalone games. You can play them all on their own. You can combine them. This is the first one. I'm going to be going through the basic rules and also the differences in each one, talking about my overall thoughts and the what I think of each one, and also which ones I think are worth buying. So let's just jump into how to play. So in Epic Spell Wars to the Battle Wizards, at least in the first game, you are trying to become the last wizard standing twice. Whenever you are the last wizard standing, you get one of these tokens, and then when you get 2 of them, you win. Later on, this will change, but that's how it is in the first game. Each round, you draw 8 cards, and then everybody builds a spell. A spell can contain up to 3 different components. So if you look on the bottom of these cards here on the right, there's delivery cards, there are source cards, here's a quality card. Now, the only rule for a spell is that you cannot have the same type of card twice. So I could do something like this. I could do a source card, a quality card, and a delivery card. In this case, it spells out Muzzle Snaps, Disco Mirrored, Vorpal Trap. An invalid play, though, would be if I played 2 delivery cards, or if I played 2 source cards, or so on. If you ever make an illegal spell, you gotta discard cards until it is legal. Now, you could do source and delivery, or you could just do quality and delivery. You could even just play 1 card. Basically, the only rule is that you cannot use the same type of card more than once. Now, when you choose your cards for your spell, you place them in a pile face down in front of you, because you don't want people to know exactly how many cards are in your spell. Then, once you're done playing your spell, everybody calls out the number of components. So somebody might say, I have 3 cards, I have 2, and so on. The fewer cards you have, that determines who goes first. So if there are a couple players who played 1 card each, they would get to go first, then 2 cards, then 3 cards. Now, if there's a tie in the number of cards, then you look at initiative. The delivery cards have this initiative number on here. So let's say I played 3 cards and my opponent played 3 cards, but my initiative is 13 here, and theirs is 10. Then I would get to go first. If you don't have a delivery card in your spell, or if it's a wild card, which I'll show later, then you don't have even initiative of 0. And then you just reveal your spells in order and you resolve them. So, for this one here, Muzzle Snaps, Disco Mirrored, Vorpal Trap. This one, add a die to each of your power rolls this round. Disco Mirrored, this card copies the text of a source or delivery in your spell. Okay. And Vorpal Trap, this targets the foe on your left. You roll power dice, and you see what you get. Now, one thing is, on the bottom left of these cards, there are glyphs. If you match glyphs to your delivery, then you get to roll more dice. Well, these can also be on quality cards and such as well. So, okay, let's say I have, I have 2 illusion glyphs in my spell. And let's say this Disco Mirror is going to copy this card. That means I would get to roll 1, 2, and then this card's effect lets me add another one. So I can do this, roll 3 dice. I rolled 14. That means 10 plus, 3 damage, and the target must choose and destroy one of their treasures or suffer 3 more damage. And if I do it again on this one, that'd be 12, so I do the same thing again. So the foe to my left is going to get some real pummeling. And that's how a spell resolves. You just go left to right and do it step by step. And if there are matching glyphs, then power rolls get more dice. You can play a wild magic card. What wild magic does is, before resolving it, reveal cards until you find a card of the type this was used in place of. In this case, I use it as a quality. So, I would reveal from the top until I get a quality. And then it goes in here. So this spell would be Magmagog's Catastrophic Bedazzlement.
Choose one, deal 3 damage to the foe on your left, or deal 1 to each foe. Catastrophic, each player rolls a die, add 2 to your roll. The high rollers gain a treasure. Each other player takes damage equal to the roll. And Bedazzlement, foe of your choice, you roll. In this case, it's 1, 2 power die. I rolled 9. In this case, it'd be 1 damage, and you may add a random card from your hand to your spell, which whenever you add cards to your spell after they're revealed, those can break the more than 1 card rule. So in this case, then I could add a card and it wouldn't break any rules. Treasure cards, which were mentioned before, are cards you can earn playing specific cards. Oh, by the way, this is your HP tracker. Once you get down past to 0, you're out. Treasure cards can have stuff like Lady Luck's panties. Whenever you roll only 1 die, you add 2 to your roll. Or Methion's Backpack of Speed. Your spells have +10 initiative, and you can discard this treasure to act last in a round. These treasures give you boosts, however, at the end of the round, they are all discarded. Unless it says Everlasting, which I forget which set that starts in, but those can carry over. Finally, if you get knocked out and go down to 0, you get to draw a Dead Wizard card. Dead Wizard cards give you extra benefits for the next game, like Wild, Furycorn Meadow. At the end of the current game, find a wild magic card and set it aside. After you draw your starting hand next game, add it to your hand. Or the Giant Space Kingdom in the Sky. You start the next game with +2 HP. At the start of each new round, you draw a Dead Wizard card if you're dead. So these start to pile up and will make you, more beefed up for the next game. Then, like I said, if you are the last wizard standing, you get a last wizard standing token, and you just play another round until somebody wins 2 of those tokens. Otherwise, in between rounds, you discard all your cards, discard all treasures, and you play another one. So that is the first game, and that gives you the basic rules. But let's go into the differences of the next sets. The next set is Rumble at Castle Tentacle, and one of the new mechanics is creatures, like this jelly square here. So if you roll the dice, you can see on here there's a keyword, keep. If you roll 10 and up, it's 4 damage, and you draw a treasure, and you keep the monster. So let's pretend I had another arcane card attached to this, and I can roll 2 dice. And I roll 11. So not only do I get to inflict 4 damage to the foe on my left, and I draw a treasure, but this card stays in play with the keep keyword. Creatures are useful because they don't count towards your spell component card count, but however, the glyphs do count. And also, they can just trigger on your next turn. So if you hold on to this creature until the next turn, you get to attack with it again when your initiative comes up. In fact, you have to do it. But on your next turn, let's say you roll and you don't get 10 and up, then the card will go away. But theoretically, if you're really lucky and keep rolling 10 and up each time, this card can stick around indefinitely. Creatures are also useful in that they can block an instance of damage once. So if someone tries to attack you for like 4 damage, Jelly Square gets discarded and you're protected, but it's only 1 instance of damage. Another new mechanic is blood. So we take our character sheet here. You have a blood token. Whenever you kill a foe, you gain 3 blood, and you move this counter up on your track. You maintain your blood between rounds, so you don't reset it when you die, and you can't have more than 25 blood. Now, what blood is used for, some of the cards say you can spend blood, like Greedy here. This card lets you draw 2 treasures. Each foe who is not active this round draws a treasure. But then, if you pay 2 blood, each foe who has acted this round must destroy one of their treasures. So, you can spend the blood to trigger the effect. There's also a standee in this. There was one in the other game, but it actually has a purpose in this one. The standee can give you rewards if you have it. So at the beginning of a round, nobody owns the standee, but certain cards will let you take it. For example, Burn and Bangers here. Choose one. Either take the standee and deal 1 damage to each foe, or deal 3 damage to a foe who does not have the standee. So this is a way you can get the standee to put in front of you. And this has a blood thing. Pay 3 blood, you can do both. If you have the standee, certain cards will reward you, like Pollinating. Reveal cards with the main deck until you find a creature and then add it to your spell. standee, if you have the standee, you get to add 2 creatures instead. And once the round is done, the standee goes back to neutral. Nobody has it. There are also reaction cards, like Whiz Sleeve Steves. Deal 1 damage to any foe, and then reaction. If you die before this card resolves and you have a creature in the spell, reveal the creature and it takes the damage instead, and you didn't die. So these can be useful if you are about to die. You can protect yourself or do other things, like maybe let you target a foe, that sort of thing. Finally, this game adds a quick match variant, which I think was overdue. Instead of playing until a player gets 2 Last Wizard Standing tokens, you just play 3 matches total, and instead of collecting Last Wizard Standing tokens, you get tokens for killing your foes. So for each foe you kill, you score a point, and if you're the Last Wizard Standing, you score a point. You play 3 games, most points wins. That speeds up the game quite a bit, because one issue I had with the original game was it was too fucking long. But yeah, that is Rumble at Castle Tentacle. The main additions to this being the creatures, the standee, and the blood. And reactions, I guess. And for all these sets, they all add new treasures, new Dead Wizard cards, and a whole stack of new cards, with spell cards in general. The next set is Melee at Murdershrew Marsh. This one is, I think, the best set. First off, what's interesting in this game, it makes the quick variant the default, where you score a point for each wizard you kill and a point for being the last wizard standing. You play 3 matches. However, you can still obviously play the epic match variant, which you collect 2 wizard tokens, or last wizard standing tokens to win. Now, what this game adds is a couple new mechanics. First off, there are now dual glyph cards, like this one. This is both a elemental and a primal. So what's nice about these ones is you can match, not only does it default have 2 dice, because it's technically 2 different glyphs, but you can match both elemental and primal. So if I added a fire quality and a primal source, I would still get to roll 4 dice on that, which is nice. Another new rule is cantrip. Cantrip, like on this King Tuttenputz card, you gain a treasure, but cantrip, discard 2 source cards to add this card from your hand to your spell. So let's say I played this spell, and I had this card in my hand. If I had 2 source cards once I reveal this initiative, I could discard them and add this onto here, which can be a nice unpleasant surprise for your opponents if you surprise add a card like that. And that's it for cantrip, but I think that's a very, very satisfying mechanic. Another new mechanic is bad trip. If your spell contains 4 or more different glyphs, resolve this card again. So if I had, 1, 2... Okay, let's just pretend this has 4 different glyphs. Bad trip, how it works is if it has 4 or more different glyphs, you get to do it again. That mitigates the, I don't have matching glyphs to make my power rolls good. Well, then if you have enough to do this, you can get a special effect that way. And what's nice about glyphs is that dead wizard cards, treasure cards, cards that get added, all those glyphs on those cards also contribute towards that. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for this set. But for me, the cantrip, bad trip, and the double glyphs really did add some very interesting elements to the game. So that is that set. The 4th set is Panic at the Pleasure Palace. This was actually my least favorite set. You'll see why in a second. The gimmick of this set is MTDs. MTDs are diseases that you can give to your opponents, and they are randomly drawn from this bag. There are 10 different MTDs, and 2 of each. So when you get an MTD, it might be something like Hocus Poxus. At the end of your turn, lose 2 HP, or Witch Warts. Reduce all of your card effects to a single foe. What is nice, though, is that they do give you glyphs for having them. So a certain card like Kinky Rogger's Roasting, if you roll a 10 or up, you get 2 damage for each of your MTDs. They get 2 damage for each of your MTDs, which can be good if you have a bunch. Fumbling, the player with the standee puts it in the middle of the table and then gains 1 MTD. These are all ones that have about, like, your MTDs. There are also cards that let you cure MTDs, like Nephritidis, cure one of your MTDs. If you had any to cure, gain a treasure. Necrophagic, a foe of your choosing gains 1 MTD for each dead wizard in the game. If they're none, deal 3 damage. So those are MTDs. If you die due to your own MTD's effects, nobody gets a kill token. And whenever you cure MTDs, you put them back in this sack. The standee in this game, it basically protects you from your opponent's MTDs. You can see on this little thing here. Yeah, opponent's cards can't give you MTDs. So as long as you have it, you are protected. However, you are not immune to your own cards giving you MTDs. If you kill someone who has the standee, you gain it, or certain cards can also take the standee as well. And that's it for this set. It was basically just the MTDs, which I wasn't a huge fan of. And the final set, Hijinx at Hell High. The newest gimmick in this set is the social status board. So in this one, the players are all sorted by their social status, and they actually have little standees that determine where they are on the track. At the start of each round, you look at where people are on the social status board, and each position has a different effect that happens. Let's just kind of go through these. Class President, draw a card and choose a glyph. All players add 1 die to power rolls with that glyph this round. The Jock, choose Source Quality Delivery. Deal 3 damage to a foe of your choosing with lower social status unless they give you a card of that type. So if this guy was up here and this guy was up here, he could bully this one to steal a card. Slutty Cheerleader, heal 2 HP, then choose a foe with higher social status to heal 2 HP as well. Basic Bitch, gain a treasure unless you own more treasure than each foe. Nerd, while your HP is a prime number, add +1 to any damage you deal. Stoner, deal 1 damage to a foe of your choosing with higher social status for each victory point they have. Loner, at the start of your turn, if your spell has 1 or fewer components, add the top 2 cards of the main deck to your spell. Discard any that match the component type you control. And the ultimate loser, you suck. So you resolve those from top to bottom. Whenever you gain or lose social standing, you move up and down. If you go up on the same space as somebody else, if you're moving up, they move down. However, if you move down, they move up. There are a lot of different cards that let you gain or lose social status. There's stuff like Fire Drilling, deal 2 damage to your strongest foe. If your social status is 6 or higher, you target each foe instead. You can get perks for being popular. There's something like Roll Ritualin. Each player rolls a die, including you. Whoever rolls equal to or higher than their social status takes no damage. Everyone else takes 3. When you die, you remove your standee from the board and count the number of wizards in the game. That is, so in a 4-player game, you would count down 8, 7, 6, 5. And so that means next round, so if I died, that means next round you'll start on this rank and the next round. Once everyone's done, then that's the new order for the next round. There's also a new keyword, Bully. How Bully works is like Alpha Bitch. Deal 2 damage to your foe with the most treasure. However, Bully, if that foe has lower social status than you, you add the top card of the main deck to your spell. So there are benefits to being more popular. That's the main gimmick of this one. It's the social status board moving up and down and playing different card effects depending on where you are on that. And that's all 5 sets. So that's pretty much how you play. You just knock out your opponents, try to be the last wizard standing and get the most points.
So I had actually played Epic Spell Wars years ago, and I thought it was just okay then. But after playing through every single set, it's been pretty gratifying seeing the improvements made to the game along the way, but also my appreciation for the game overall actually grew. First off, though, let's talk about the art and the aesthetic. It's definitely not my style. I think it's a bit kind of a little too try hard to be, whoa, so, you know, mature and profane. It's like, okay, I get it. You know, but it's a choice. You know, some of the cards are funny to read in combination with the other cards, but I feel like the novelty wears off fast. However, it's drawn extremely well. I mean, it is good art. It's just a little like, whoa, barftastic, like, fuck you, you know. I'm like, okay, I get it. The basic premise of combining your spell cards is pretty clever. You know, having it be 3 parts. But what makes it really interesting is the initiative system. You know, with the shorter spell, you go first, higher number breaks the tie. Since some cards have effects where you really need to make sure you're either ahead or behind the others, there's a good amount of thought you have to put into this and try to kind of like predict your opponents and outfox them. Like if a card says, you know, target everyone who went before you, you're like, okay, I gotta go super slow. It's really satisfying when you get that exact right initiative that you needed. That and the combination of, you know, the glyphs combining to, you know, give you more dice for your power rolls. That's also a great mechanic. You know, it makes it so that piecing together exactly what cards to play in combination can be very satisfying. Now, with the first game, one big problem that they fixed later is it's too fucking long. This was why I didn't really like the game when I first played it. Because waiting for one player to win twice, if you have like 5 or 6 players, that can take forever. This is not a game that is meant to be played for that long. It overstays its welcome immensely. But that's something that they fix later, and of course you can also just not play it that way. But we'll get into that. The second set, Rumble at Castle Tentacle, I really liked the creatures. I thought that was a great addition, you know, because what's great about creatures is not only do you get that fun, oh, I rolled the right thing, I get to keep a card, but having more cards in play gives you more combinations for glyphs adding up, for power rolls. You know, that's what makes this fun. You know, putting treasures, getting glyphs, you know, making yourself more powerful. So it's a fun way to reward you for good rolls and combos. Also a nice way to defend as well. So very welcome addition. The blood mechanic is fun too. You know, you can collect that blood and use it for different bonuses. I like it, but I think there's a later mechanic in a future set that I liked more. That was kind of a similar idea. But still, definitely a welcome inclusion to the game. And it makes the standee useful, which is nice, because otherwise it just kind of did nothing. One mechanic throughout the games I didn't really care about was reactions. Like, yeah, you can use them when you die, but by then it's like, who cares, right? Yeah, there are some that protect you, but a lot of them are just like, oh, target a foe. Most of the time, you know, unless you're dead, they just do nothing. And they don't really add much, that, in my opinion, anyway. It was this game that added the variant that later games adopt as the default, where you only play 3 matches total. That way you're not stuck playing this game for hours and hours and hours. So that's a great move on their part. And in fact, they implement it as the default later. Then we have Melee at Murdershrew Marsh, which this is the first game that makes that quick match variant the default, which is smart. This set also introduced the most mechanics I liked the best. The dual glyphs are cool. They remind me of like double class cards in Marvel Legendary. They give you more potential for glyph combos. Cantrip is my favorite mechanic. You know, being able to play cards by discarding other cards as a surprise is really fun. It kind of felt like a more successful version of Blood, because Cantrip isn't just determined by how much blood you have. It can be done as long as you have the cards available, which is fun. Bad Trip was also a fun way to mitigate, oh, you don't have matching glyphs. In previous games, that was kind of a bummer. But in this one, if you can get, you know, enough, hey, you get a reward on top of that. So overall, this is my favorite set of the 5. And if you're only going to get one of these, this is the one to get. This is the best one. Panic at the Pleasure Palace was a big misstep for me. I thought the whole MTD concept wasn't funny, it was tasteless. It also wasn't fun, most importantly. The random bad effects from a bag is kind of just not very interesting. They overcomplicate the game a little bit. The standee protecting you from opponents' MTDs, I think, is way too powerful of a buff. It felt unbalanced, unpleasant in theme, and just not very fun. I honestly would not even recommend picking this one up. I think, unless you're going for completion, which I understand, but this was just annoying. I didn't like this one at all. And then the final set, Hijinx at Hell High. I thought this was fun. It's a little cumbersome. I don't know if it's necessary. The social status board, it is fun to push people up and down, and then using like the bully keyword or the other card effects, like, oh, you're below in social status, you get this bonus. That's fun and satisfying. However, at the start of each round, going through a whole list of effects definitely slows down the game a bit. And sometimes like, oh fuck, we forgot. Okay, we got to do the effects. It's a little much, not really necessary. It's an interesting experiment, and I think overall it is fun, but I wouldn't want to play with this every single time. It kind of changes the game into a very different kind of game. It's a little bit longer, a little bit more cumbersome. It'd be a fun one to pull out every now and then, but I would not keep it as a standby. So overall, I enjoyed these games way more than I thought I would. Also, I didn't mention this. I actually think this works really well with 2 players, surprisingly well. There are some cards that lose their potency, in fact some cards that are useless in a 2-player game, but having that direct back and forth conflict I thought was actually really fun. So I think this plays well with a variety of number of players. I think it's a fun party style, card game with a surprising amount of thought and strategy in it, despite, its lightness. I think the third one, Melee and Murdershrew Marsh, is the must-buy. If you combine this with Rumble at Castle Tentacle, I think this is a good combination of ones to get. The first set is okay. It's just kind of blah. I would not buy it on its own. It's a little too vanilla. This one I would just skip. And this one, it's fun, but not necessary. But I appreciate the experiment on this one. Overall, though, I had a good time with these. I was very pleasantly surprised.